pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Are the mics on now? It sounds like it. Shall we have roll call?
Thank you. Commissioner Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Kuczynski.
Present.
Commissioner Talley.
Here.
Commissioner Wu.
Here.
Chair Pro Tem Blackwell.
Here.
And Vice Chair Rulin.
Here.
And Chair Crandall.
Here. Next item is special orders of business. We have none. We have some minutes to approve. Does anybody have any changes to the minutes?
I have a couple of changes.
All right.
On the second page, let's see, where did I have it? On the third line from the bottom, it's the next to last bullet point, commented the original configuration of the subject streets was similar to freeway lanes. Wide lanes have been proven to encourage speeding. I don't think that the term proven to encourage speeding was what was stated. I think it was proven to have higher rates of speed, because speeding is a violation and higher rates of speed.
Does anybody have any comments on that one item? Okay. We will make that correction.
Where was the... I think that was all I had.
Anyone have any other changes?
I move we approve with changes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And that was seconded by Rulin.
And one abstain.
And one abstain, that's correct. So it was 6-01. Next item, let's get back to the agenda, is oral and written communications. I see no one from the public here, so we will move on to consent calendar, and we have none there. So we will open the public hearing, and the first item is item A, 2400 South El Camino Real, discretionary sign permit 17399, Shell Master Sign Program. And David.
If I may introduce David Carrillo, this is his very last appearance before the Planning Commission as a community development technician, because on Monday, he magically will transform to an assistant planner.
Good job, David.
Guys, thank you. How can we get this on?
Doesn't look like the TV's on. No, these...
None of our TVs are on.
We're working that well.
The computer, is the computer on?
The computer's not on.
None of these are.
We have technical difficulty going here.
No. It's to your right.
So does that happen at 12:01 a.m. or 11:59?
Whenever it happens, I'm happy to take it.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you, thank you.
Right here.
On the other side.
He's been working the front desk.
If it's easy.
You'll still be doing that, right?
You could do it there as well.
Not as much, but yeah.
At the counter?
Still be up there, right, yeah.
There we go.
And Jonathan Lightfoot, who I think you all know, he processed the Romney residence most recently. He will also turn into an assistant planner on Monday.
Magically.
Yeah.
Are we replacing technicians?
We will have a vacancy for one planning technician, and we do plan to recruit to fill that position.
And while we're waiting for the computer to boot, Mal, could you give a quick synopsis for those that haven't been involved in Stein ordinances of what we can talk about on signs and as far as text versus we stay away from text, etc.?
are we talking here about content neutral versus content-based regulations? Yeah, we do not regulate the content of signs in any way here in the city. Now, commercial signs are a little bit different, and gas station signs, there's some content regulation that's allowed by state law, but tonight, we're simply looking at the dimensions, design elements of the signs, and not the copy of the signs. Once we delve into copy, we find ourselves in some constitutional sticky areas.
Great, thank you very much.
And if memory serves, with gas stations, certain fuel types have to be illuminated with certain color lights,
They
correct?
do, and the pricing has to be posted also.
Right, Like
And they will have-
diesel fuel has to be.
And they shall have a monument signed by state law.
Do you want to start,
You
Wallace
guys-
Booting?
Right, okay. Yeah, so again, my name is David Carrillo. Happy to be here before you guys. So the site is located at 2400 South El Camino Real in the Neighborhood Commercial 1.3 Zone and Affordable Housing and Coastal Zone Overlay Districts, and within the South El Camino Focus Area as well. The site is surrounded by commercial uses and the municipal golf course to the east. So the applicant requests a new master sign program for an existing Shell gas station to install 2 new pin-mounted halo-lit canopy signs, reface existing gas dispenser signs, reface the monument sign, and reface a pole sign. I did have some images here. Can I take some time to
Please.
log in?
That I can't help you with. What do you got?
They were having some issues with these TVs last night at council.
Password.
The rest, yeah, so the rest, I mean, I had images to show, and I don't know if you guys, so do you guys have plans in front of you?
We do, and maybe while that's booting, can you do a quick synopsis of pole signs and legally non-conforming for our new members?
Yeah, so we do have actually 2 legal non-conforming signs, we have, including the pole sign and the monument sign, both due to size standards. So the pole sign is above the height limit by 20-something feet, and also it is a freeway-oriented sign as well. The monument sign is a little bit too large over the height, or the size requirement, so we do have that.
Was the LED lighting, I'm sorry, may I ask?
Yes, go ahead.
Was the LED lighting, we've discussed this before, dealing with the color temperature of the pin-mounted lights, was that discussed to make sure that that's consistent with what we've done at the outlet malls and the other service stations in
So-
town?
We did have a recent master sign program that came before you, and we,
Tim, that seems kind of high, doesn't it? It's like close to daylight, right?
I think we went to 3,000 for the outlet.
Yeah, I thought we did 3,000 for
okay. That was approved under a separate master sign program recently, but we can change that if you guys feel comfortable with that.
the color temperature we approved for the freeway-oriented sign for outlet. Originally, they proposed $6,500, and we dropped that to $4,000. 4,000 is it's not an amber, it's not a yellow, but it's a warm white.
I'll defer to
Okay,
Commissioner Whelan on the expertise of that.
we will get to that. And,
Okay.
and we can make a condition that they review that and make sure it is consistent.
With the outlets.
I think we best keep it consistent with the latest gas stations we've done.
Okay. Yep.
like use, yeah. Okay, looks like you're just about online here.
Oh, we got it.
Updates available, no, don't click that.
Severe.
Did you have a comment you wanted to make on the light?
I'll wait till we get into discussion. Now, as long as we're waiting, I will ask a question. Again, for that item 12, we say the halo lighting will be white with a color temperature of 4,000 Kelvin. But if I'm reading this application correctly, the halo lighting, we only have the canopy, the two Shell logo canopies are the only halo lighting.
That's correct.
There's no halo lighting. The freeway sign, for instance, isn't going to be halo lighting, which is...
No, just the two logo canopy signs.
Okay. And that will become part of the master sign program, and if they ever do change signs, they'll have to comply with that.
Yeah, I call it.
Yeah, so...
Interesting rationale.
I've got other questions about it, but I'll wait till we get to it, so... What's that? Go ahead.
It's interesting, we're finally establishing a master sign program for this gas station. If you read the staff report, a lot of documentation has been lost over the years, so now we're kind of gathering everything in and putting it all under one tent.
Jason, go ahead.
It appears, and this is really for the members on the body here, that the Design Review Subcommittee was fairly proactive on this project.
And all that.
Were you,
session, okay.
were you guys happy with what came out of that, with the
Yes,
final
the applicant was actually
application?
very easy to work with, pretty much followed everything we needed to do and wanted to do. The sign sizes actually reduced in visual appearance, so it worked out very well.
Okay.
Okay, David,
So
you're
here
on.
we have some images. So we have an existing image to your top left. Bottom right, we have the proposed signs installed already. Not, correction, they're not installed now. So here we have the pole sign that's proposed to just be refaced. No structural changes to the pole sign is proposed. We have dispenser signs as well. We have the spanner signs to your top right and the pump skirts on the bottom.
David, I have a question on this pump skirt sign. And your measurement of the sign area is a Pectin logo only. Now, if you look at to the left of the Pectin logo, there's a large rectangular white, rectangular yellow and red. Isn't that not part of the sign? It's not on your table.
That's correct. It's not part of the table. We can include it. There is no size maximum right now in our sign ordinance for pump skirts. Maximum sizes for pump skirts, including spanner signs, are usually determined through the discretionary process.
Do you consider this rectangular yellow and red stripes as part of the sign?
I would defer to the city planner. Have we done?
That's almost illegal.
In the staff report, we just included the Pectin logo. Yeah.
They can, it's a debate, I don't know if we can say it should be, but it's certainly a debatable issue. They can legitimately paint their pump any color they want. That could be a whole yellow pump rather than a white one. But we have the discretionary ability to review that and say, you know, it's too busy or whatnot.
Do you think, Mel, do you think that's part of the sign, or is that?
Yeah, this is a good question. It depends on the definition of sign in this context in the code entirely. And I'll look that up, but it depends on how it's defined.
Now, I think you were saying there is no square footage issue
For-
as far
for
as
pump
the pump
skirt.
signs go, so it really, as far as area goes, is not an issue. It would be if you think it's too busy or whatnot.
Yeah, I understand the total sign package is, other than the fact there's a monument sign there as well under the maximum, the only thing that drives it over is the monument sign, which is grandfathered, so, I mean, this shouldn't affect the total
No, it
signage
shouldn't.
requirement within the normal code. It's just, I think Mr. Wu had a very good point. Is that a sign or not?
We'll get to that in discussion. Go ahead and
Okay.
complete the presentation.
Yep. All right. So here we have the monument sign, existing condition to your top left, proposed to your bottom right. So here initially, the applicant had proposed an all-white monument sign. At DRC, subcommittee members did recommend that they keep the gray on the monument sign. The applicant, as you see here, did not completely keep the entire gray. They did provide some white areas. However, staff still thought that the gray would be consistent with the design guidelines.
Question, the actual numbers themselves, you mean being gray? Is that what you're talking about, being gray here, or just a
No,
band?
the border within it.
The borders only, okay.
Yeah, around each panel. So staff finds that the project is consistent with the intent of the general plan, design guidelines, and zoning ordinance. Therefore, staff recommends that the planning commission approve discretionary sign permit 17-399, subject to resolution 18-020. That concludes the presentation. I will say the applicant was not able to attend due to an emergency. Yeah.
Very good. So do we have any questions for staff director, or do we want to do those during discussion? I think it might be easier in discussion because we'll have lots of questions. Okay, so we will close the presentation, open it to public comment. No public comment. Let's open it for discussion. Mr. Rulon.
Yeah, a couple questions first. Those pin-mounted signs, they're a little different than what we've done in the past, which usually is some kind of black or bronze, and it's just got that nice little halo effect. It looks like on those pin-mounted signs that those are plastic, and the pin-mounted signs, you'll see the logo or the name or whatever, and the lights are inside, and they're shining against the back of the wall, right? So at night,
Not through the face.
metal of the
Right.
thing, but these are plastic, and it occurred to me that even though it's pin-mounted, the light's going to be shining through the plastic, if I'm understanding, if I read the report correctly.
It is halo lit on page 3.
Is this what you're looking at? See, it shows halo, but where is it's halo lit, so I just want to make sure then, by definition, at night, they're going to see essentially a shadow of the logo.
An outline.
As opposed to a red and yellow.
That is correct. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure, just given the way that was,
Okay.
it
Yes.
looked plastic to me, so I was concerned.
And that was, we had that conversation.
Oh, you did?
Design review.
Great. For the pole sign, am I correct that there's no change in copy, there's no change in the way it's displayed, nothing at all, it's all purely a like for like?
Like for like.
Like for like,
Yeah.
okay. Okay, that's all, I think that's all the questions I have for now, thanks.
Commissioner Wu.
Yeah, I have a question for the city attorney. Since the freeway oriented post sign is grandfathered, the type of the sign is grandfathered. Also, for the monument sign, it exceeds the maximum allowed size, but it's also grandfathered. But when we calculate the maximum allowed sign area, are they still counted?
Because those two signs are grandfathered, the additional square footage allowed by those signs wouldn't count against the maximum allowed by the current code, right? Because that extra square footage is grandfathered square footage. And so you could hypothetically have a sign that was 1,000 square feet. And that sign alone would bust the maximum. And they couldn't have any other signage, which wouldn't be fair because that signage is non-conforming.
Okay. So when we calculated the proposed sign area, we would consider the post sign 0, and the monument sign at the maximum, which is 32.
I don't know how that was calculated. I think you could calculate it at the maximum of what the code allows, and then not calculate the non-conforming additional square footage, but I don't know how that was calculated.
Okay.
Can you repeat the question, Commissioner?
Mal is correct, that's how we ran the calculations. We used the maximum allowed by code.
Which is standard.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. There's at the end of the parking, if you look at the gas station from El Camino Real, to your right-hand side, there's a lighting pole at the end of a parking space. On the lighting pole, there's a large sign advertising some credit card application. It's about 3 feet by 5 feet big. Is that part of your condition, that condition 8, removal of any non-complying and unpermitted signs shall be conducted? Are those signs to be removed?
Yes, yeah.
Okay. So I have no more questions. I just want to make a comment on the skirt sign. In my viewpoint, that yellow and red color is a patent color of shell. It certainly is part of a sign. So now each of them looks like about 4 square feet, so we would add 32 square feet to the total for the sign area. And I personally think that we should take that out. If it's, I'm okay with the table, but the table doesn't include that rectangular area. So in my viewpoint, we should either take that out from the design or take the dispenser pump skirt signs altogether. In the chart, it is also said that skirt sign is subject to our discretionary review, so we can decide how much we allow them or we allow them at all.
Now, those pumps have existing signage on them, correct?
Correct.
And we aren't adding any new signage in this application, correct?
Correct.
It's just changing copy and color.
Yes.
These are not new pumps, they're not going digital like the monument sign?
That wasn't even discussed as far as if it's a new pump or not.
A lot of times these things,
They change them periodically.
change the pumps out, they're all electronic, so that when you change the pricing at the pump, you change the monument sign, so they're all tied together by fiber optics or Wi-Fi. So oftentimes, the station operator is putting a whole new pump in, unless they've done it previously.
Yeah, that was not part of the application that we reviewed at design review. It was strictly
Okay,
existing signs and pumps.
thank you.
The staff did an analysis of a history. So based on that previous master sign program, as well as the 2 applications dated prior to that, I think all we can certain is that a post sign was grandfathered, was permitted and grandfathered. The monumentation is permitted and grandfathered, and the sign on the canopy, they were part of the application. So those were considered legal, whether they are conforming or non-conforming. Everything else, yes, they are existing, but it doesn't mean they are a legal sign. Just like the sign on the lighting pole at the end of a parking lot, the big sign is advertising credit card application. It's existing, but based on the history, we have no reason to believe that they are allowed.
Commissioner Talley?
I think the Assistant City Attorney had something to say.
Well, I defer to Commissioner Talley if this is on the same topic. I just had a comment about
Sure, it probably is. Go ahead now.
Well, the question was asked a few minutes ago whether this would be a sign under our code, and this has been addressed again. Looking at the definition of sign and sign area, it's not clear whether that would qualify as a sign, the entire the Shell logo plus the coloration. However, looking at the definition and taking this to its logical extreme, you could think of, say, a McDonald's or any other establishment with a specified color scheme, right? McDonald's has, for example, the golden arches on the side of the building, and the rest of that building facade has it's red and yellow, essentially. If that red and yellow, because it's McDonald's color scheme, rendered that entire side of the building a sign, then they would bust the maximum with every single restaurant, because the entire building then becomes a sign.
Except in San Clemente.
Except and with KFC, it's the red and white, right? So if simple coloration is a sign, then you very quickly have almost every business running afoul of our sign regulations. Again, it's not clear in here, but I think the logical extreme of the argument renders nearly every business out of compliance with our code.
And that was actually what I was going to state, which was, if that little shell symbol wasn't down in the lower right-hand corner, I don't think that lower skirt would even have been presented for approval within the sign. And the same on the top. If there was no words on the top, if it was just the number 2 and then it was yellow, or there was no number 2 on there, we would not need to do any approval for that. They could simply place that up there, because the obvious view would be that there's no sign. So I think I understand, I think you can parse it both ways if you want to. I think it's a very logical concern that you bring up, Commissioner Wu. But I think that's color, and that's covering, and the sign is the actual image that's on there that has that has content. The question is the yellow and the red content of any type?
That's exactly the question I was about to raise to the city attorney. Is yellow and red is the brand. So then are we going down the slippery slope of content here, which we shouldn't go to?
Well, but then you're still saying it's a sign, and I think your example of the McDonald's building and the KFC building is the slippery slope, which is let's regulate the easy image, and we don't need to go down the rabbit hole on the others. I think the project looks great from my personal view and can support it.
Commissioner Blackwell.
Okay. Well, I'd like to comment on the sign or not sign topic. In my experience, especially with gas stations, when you're looking for one from afar and you approach an intersection, you see 3 or 1 on each corner. You're looking for colors right away, and the yellow is identifiable. You know it's Shell. The orangish red is 76. The blue is a Mobil or Chevron. That is an attention-getting mechanism, and by being such, it becomes a type of a sign, in my opinion. So that's my thought on it. So if it is open for some interpretation, that would be my interpretation of it. Although I don't think it's necessarily a detrimental issue to remove it or keep it into the discussion at this point. I think it's fine the way it is. And, but let me move on to my questions, if I may, direct to staff.
Yes.
There was discussion at the DRC about the, well, let me back up and ask this question. Would you agree that it's the applicant's intent to beautify the property, to improve the look of the property as part of this package?
I would agree. The applicant did review the conditions and is aware of the condition to remove any unpermitted signage, so.
So to make the property look more attractive, right. More current, cleaner looking. So it really is a discussion about the aesthetics of the property, right? So on that note, there was a discussion at the DRC level about the rooftop screening of the equipment and whether or not it would be screened. Was that ever answered? Did you speak with the applicant about that?
I did not.
You didn't? Okay. And will the poles that hold up the existing signs, will they be repainted?
That is not proposed.
No. Okay, thank you. And so to Mel, would it be reasonable to, considering the intent the applicant has here to beautify the project or the property, clean it up, do you see a potential relationship to further conditions to beautify the property, such as painting the pole that's going to support the new refacing sign and screening the equipment on the roof?
Well, this is an application for sign permits, right? So we want to tie any conditions, any exactions to signage. So painting the pole, for example, that's part of the signage. I think there's no problem there. Screening equipment on the roof, you're getting a bit further afield, but you could probably make an argument that there is a relation there. This is not straight up a beautification application. This is a sign application. But under the Nolan-Dolan principles, requiring them to screen equipment on the site where they're getting a sign permit probably wouldn't be too far a stretch, although it's more of a stretch than we would typically make.
Okay, thank you. So, with that stated, and considering the cooperation the applicant demonstrated, at least at the DRC level, and the applicant is not here tonight, correct?
That's correct.
Do you think it would be an unreasonable ask to ask the applicant to screen that rooftop screening and to paint that pole? Do you think the applicant would be agreeable?
I don't believe so. He did mention, we did speak before the meeting, he said he was open to, any recommendations or new conditions, and he'd be happy to agree to those. But we would still, make him aware.
Okay.
Yeah.
I could support that.
Yeah. So with that in mind, what would anybody else on the commission?
Yeah,
propose?
I just wanted to talk about a precedence. On some other gas stations we've done, we have in fact avoided having the fascia of the major roofs and all painted the corporate color. And that was, I believe, the one down by Shorecliff on El Camino.
AMPM.
We made sure that they did not paint it corporate color and was just a sign. And that's what they've done here on the roof. It's just regular color with the shell on it. So I think they've done that. As far as the signs on the pumps, I'm sure we'll have this discussion numerous times. I'm comfortable with, they haven't increased the square footage, I don't think, beyond what's reasonable. I'm a little uncomfortable with jumping into construction issues that will require a building permit when they're applying for a sign program.
Right.
As far as the screen, plating the pole, I'm very comfortable with. But that gets into a whole different trade, and the applicant's job was to apply for sign permits, not to beautify the whole site. So my personal opinion, I'd prefer not to go on that one. Painting the pole, absolutely. And I know there's some more discussion we're going to have here, I think. So,
Yep.
Commissioner Brown.
I'm kind of mirror imaging that too. I'm comfortable with the sign package. This is not a site plan permit per se. It's just a sign package. So I think this equipment screening is a great idea, but that's not, I think that's not in the conditions of approval we've been asked to approve, and that is to me, that's where you need to get a building permit. There's other requirements and conditions that aren't even called out here. Probably should have been hammered out. And what screening, is there a good picture of the screening you want screened on in the, I don't even know what equipment needs to be screened. I don't see a good photograph of it, and I don't remember looking at it. That's the only picture there, and what is the equipment you wanted screened?
Well, if I may, it would just be on the primary building. The HVAC units are open and exposed. It's a high visibility property. It's right at an on-ramp and off-ramp to the freeway. I just thought it would be. I don't know what sort of building permits, and that's a very good point. If building permits would be required for, say, wind loading, That's a very good point. Perhaps, if possible, the applicant would just paint it white. It would blend right into the white background. It would be less obtrusive. That's an option as well.
I just don't think it's a part of the findings I've been asked to make here as far as what's before me. The sign package I'm comfortable with. It's glad we've gathered all together, and we've got a real tight package here. Going forward, looking at the record, and it's an updated project. I think screening the five-sided building concept is something that we always tend to forget about. But somehow this wasn't covered in the design review process of what the application process went forward with. So I'm a little reticent about going that far, just because it would take a different type of permit and a finding that haven't been asked to make. I mean, I would have supported if we had that before. I think it's a great catch, other than the fact that that's not before us tonight to judge, to make a finding on.
Thank you, Commissioner Morel. Okay, Commissioner Wu?
Yes, I'm going to support this total package, given the fact that even after adding the rectangular yellow and red area, 32 square feet, the total square feet of sign area is still smaller than the maximum. As a side note, that area, in my viewpoint, is absolutely a sign, because it's not a single color, it's a color composition of two unique color by this brand. So I have no doubt that this is a sign. But with that said, I will support it.
Thank you. Commissioner Rowland?
Thank you. Regarding the equipment screening, that was, I think that's a really good catch, but I agree with Don and Bart. It may be a little too much to ask right now, because it's just not part of the application. So might be nice to pass it on to the applicant, that would be a nice thing if they could find a way to screen it, but I think it's a little beyond our purview for tonight. There's some nice things about this. I like actually that there's less signage up on the canopies. It's going from the full shell description to the smaller shells, and they're pin mounted, so I think that's a nice improvement. It communicates a business with it, and it's a little less intrusive. I could certainly support painting the pole sign, a condition of painting a pole sign. I think that's fair. Because they're like for like on the pole sign and replacing that, part of me was thinking, well, that should probably be pin mounted, because everything else we have with Freeway is pin mounted, but since it's like for like, I think that's a bridge too far to ask for that, so I'm good with that as well. I do think, since we started to get these more gas stations with these LED signs, both the regular signs lit by LED and also the price signs, I've seen communities, and I've mentioned this before, where those price signs get very, very bright. You can see them from a long way away. So one thing I'd like to see is maybe a small condition that just says in 3 to 6 months, we take a look and look at the brightness. We do have condition 11 that says we have the authority to turn it down. So if we could go out there in 3 to 6 months after they've got all the signs turned on and all their adjustments are made, we can go out there and have staff, and I'd be happy to accompany staff too, so they don't have to bear the pain alone. But go out there at night, take a look, see if it's appropriate to turn anything lower or anything like that. That might be a good condition to start making on some of these, so that we can just check that we got the brightness right.
Didn't we have this discussion on one of these gas stations, Jim, where in fact they do have a night lighting position that they build into this thing? Isn't that the way it's covered?
I think one of them mentioned it, but like I said, I've seen them, and maybe it's, maybe there's newer models that, do this better already, but I have seen where you can see them from a mile away.
A checklist for design review coming forward. I think there's some other ones on our plate coming.
When we looked at Valero, we went over that on the monument sign about being able to dim the light.
There should probably be a photoelectric sensor on there.
Yeah,
and
it's also, these LED lights that they're using to power these now, they're still kind of new to people. The 4,000 Kelvin is still a pretty, they call it warm. Well, it's warmer than 5, it's warmer than 6, but it's still pretty, blue, very much in the blue spectrum, and people tend to, because they're cheaper to run, they tend to go ahead and turn them up. So I think it's a good thing to check, and maybe it's something we won't need to do. We'll discover it's not a problem in the future, but maybe we will.
Is that a design review feedback checklist item going through design, or do they have a night lighting position on these things to kind of consider?
We haven't
I
talked
think there's
about a night light.
Or, you know, are they dimmable, or do they have a night position? Because I think we have some more coming through the pipeline, don't
At
we?
design review, we have basically referred back to the previous several gas stations that we've gone through this, but I would recommend that at some point, staff put together a standard condition of approval for gas station light temperature and controls.
I would also offer a staff, as these things come forward, to do a 5-sided review of some of these stations that we haven't seen in 30 years. I mean, they're coming in for a sign permit, but that's not to say in the early negotiations, when people are coming in for an in-concept review or whatever else, that the staff could consider the owner to do a 5-sided review and do some of the shielding that Commissioner Blackwell was part of it. So up front early, they can sit there and run their numbers and make.
I think staff could certainly
just a
bring that up, but I
feedback.
think we do want them to upgrade their signs, and if we tie it to too many things, we may not get
True.
improvements.
I just,
So
one
we gotta
of
be very
those
careful.
early assessments that the staff could put to the applicant, say, okay, we've done a site review, would you consider shielding some of your air conditioning units or some of their stuff?
So I saw some head nods. Is there support for having staff take a look in 3 to 6 months and just reporting back to us on
Do we
what
need to
their
make that a
assessment?
condition of approval, or is that just a directive to staff?
Oh, actually, that would just be a directive to staff, I suppose, right? That we could do it like that?
I would recommend you make it a condition of approval.
Okay, good. Then if there's,
We've got a bunch of lights still on. Commissioner Talley, were you going to do a motion? or
I
we-
was going to do a motion
Well,
with
let's-
two,
How about Commissioner Blackwell?
with
Were
two
you gonna do a motion
additional-
also?
I was also going to do a motion.
Eeny, meeny, miny, mo.
Make sure your light was on first, and,
Commissioner Talley.
but if I may, just since you called on me.
Go ahead, Mr. Blackwell.
And just for the record, the screening was mentioned in the DRC discussion, and it's in the report. So it's something that, just for staff to consider when we do look at these projects where the intent is to improve the aesthetic of a property. It should be a give and take. It's a partnership, especially with high-profile locations like this. When an applicant comes in and wants to do selective improvements to beautify their property, and there are glaring issues on site that really warrant mitigation, I think it's a reasonable discussion to have before it ever gets here. And it's disappointing to me that this was a point of discussion at DRC and it was not followed up on with the applicant. So that now at this point we're having a discussion and there was no discussion between the city.
Let me ask the question of staff real quick. We have here for a master sign program, that's what's in front of us. That would require probably an architectural review, and it would be a whole nother application, would be my thinking. I don't see how that could be tied into a sign permit. So I think what's in front of us today, if we can get them early enough to also apply for
In the future.
a permit that would improve the architecture, that'd be definitely to our advantage.
These gas stations tend to be gateways in the gateway areas, and so I think we could certainly take a look at it from a gateway experience, because we're doing so well with gateway projects, I think, that minor catches like Mr. Blackwell brought up front very early, so the applicant could kind of bake it into his business plan, I think would be appropriate.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to.
I think it's too late now.
Yeah, but I just wanted to get some legal feedback on that nexus and that strength of a condition like that, and just for us in the future moving forward, we know how to ask these questions and what to expect. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Talley, well,
Yes, so,
motion.
right before I make the motion, I'd like to say, I think in some respects, these improvements to the gas stations that we are seeing are driven perhaps not by the beautification that the individual owner may be wishing to do, but by mandates that are coming down from the brand. So I agree. If we can make it nicer, we should. I'd like to make a motion that we approve resolution number PC18020, a resolution of the Planning Commission of the City of San Clemente, California, approving discretionary sign permit 17-399 El Camino Real Shell Master Sign Program, a request to consider a master sign program for an existing service station located at 2400 South El Camino Real, and also add condition number 16, which states, within 90 days of the completion of this project, the city planner shall evaluate the intensity of the illumination and at night, and shall require a reduction in the intensity of the illumination if the city planner determines the lighting intensity or illumination glare is inconsistent with general design standards included in section 1784020 of the zoning ordinance.
And, well, before we do a second, and painting of the pole sign.
And number 17, added condition number 17, that was condition 16, which is that the pole sign structure shall be repainted and maintained at all times.
Second.
I don't think we can.
White.
Is that doesn't look white now, it's gray.
No, it's gray now.
Gunmetal gray.
Can we specify color?
Yeah, I think it's part of the sign.
Or the brand.
I mean, do we want it to be white?
Why don't we say, to match
I think it will disappear better.
Yeah.
light of the building?
Unless the gas station changes franchise.
Yeah, painted building color.
The pole sign to be painted and maintained in a white color
To match the building.
to match the building.
Second?
And seconded by Commissioner Blackwell. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Passes 7-0. Next item is new business. Good job, David. Does anybody have any new business?
Thank you.
Any old business? Any reports of commissioners and staff? I see none. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I will move, we adjourn to the next adjourned regular meeting of the Planning Commission to be held on September 19, 2018. Oh, excuse me. No, that was designed, excuse me. September 19, 2018 at 6 p.m. in council chambers located at 100 Avenue de Presidio, San Clemente, California, as the September 19, 2018 study session has been canceled.
I second.
A motion by Rulon, seconded by Brown.
Hey,
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes 7-0.